My cousin texted every boy at school, pretending to be me, stole my exam books, and laughed while I screamed in pain from the bleach. She put in my shampoo, so I documented every crime she committed, and now she's mad at me for exposing her. I grew up with my cousin after losing my parents, but her wild behavior started tearing us apart. At 11, she turned into a total rebel, causing chaos at school and beyond. I'm still haunted by the crazy things she did back then. When I was 3, my parents were killed in a tragic hit-and-run accident, and there was only one place for me to live, with my Aunt Sally. She had a kid my age, Megan, and we got along super well. I remember being 5 years old and being offered to play with her toys because I had none. We were pretty much inseparable until she turned 11, because that's when she started rebelling in school a lot more. She was the definition of a crazy child. In class, she would paint her nails and hold conversations with other students, speaking so loud she was practically screaming. And after school, sometimes she would rip open garbage bags from the back and literally pour them out into the hallways. One time, she tried to light the effing sports field on fire. When the fire trucks came, she had run away in time, so she never got caught for that one. But the rest were reported by the principal, and my aunt would find out. At first, she tried to punish her with simple things, no TV, no dessert, etc. But then Megan got so insane that my aunt would ground her for months on end, and even refused to buy her gifts for Christmas until she acted right. Meanwhile, I was a star pupil. Teachers loved me like I was their own, and my aunt rewarded me for it. This caused a drift between me and Meg, but I just wanted my best friend back. I remember trying everything to set her on the right path. I'd help her with homework, try to convince her that getting on the teacher's good side is worth it, and even share my dessert with her when Aunt Sally wasn't looking. But none of it worked. And instead of taking any sort of accountability, she started blaming me. And that's the lore for how Megan's reign of terror began. When we were both 13, she stole my phone and texted every boy in my class that I was obsessed and in love with them, and asked to kiss after school. I only found out after all of them had replied with no's, and none of them believed that it wasn't me. I tried to talk to Megan about why she did that, and she promised to never do it again. But it wasn't even a full 72 hours before she broke that promise. The week of a big history test, she took all my history books and threw them out. When I told Aunt Sally that I lost them, Megan told her I was lying, that I had thrown them out because I wanted a good excuse for why I would fail. Luckily, Aunt Sally didn't believe her at all, and she bought me new ones. But that was still my breaking point. So then came a villain arc of my own. I told Meg to sit beside me, and she could cheat off of my test. As soon as she was done copying me, she handed it in. And that's when I erased my entire sheet. You see, I had purposely put in all the wrong answers. Lol. I didn't think it mattered that much because Megan would have failed anyway, but she didn't see it that way. At first, I tried to make it up to her. I'd tell the teachers to mark her grades easier because she was going through something. They actually listened. And when that didn't work, I literally started doing all of her homework for her. But she was hell-bent on hating me and continued her little antics. I could have stooped down to her, but I chose not to. And instead, I simply acted like she didn't exist. Surprisingly, this made life a heck of a lot easier for me. I started excelling in every subject and was on track to becoming valedictorian. But that's when Megan made a comeback of sorts. But not in a good way. It was the day before our graduation, and I was simply taking a shower. As I put on my shampoo, I started screaming for help. My hands felt like they were sizzling, and I could feel my scalp practically melting. Luckily, my aunt was home, and she managed to clothe me enough to get me to the hospital. The entire drive there, I was shaking and crying uncontrollably. I could feel my blood pumping in every part of my body. Luckily, the nurses managed to get most of it out of my hair in time, but I was still left with the diagnosis of first-degree burns. Turns out someone had put bleach into my shampoo, and Megan got what she wanted, because the next day I was unable to attend graduation. But little did she know, that would be her last win, because while I could use my influence for good, I could also use it for bad, and she was about to see just how bad I could be. After the hospital trip, I was stuck at home with bandages on my head. My skin itched like crazy, and I couldn't even wash my hair properly. I stayed in my room most of the time, just thinking about how to get back at Megan. I wasn't going to let her win again. My Aunt Sally was super worried about me, but she didn't know what to do with Megan anymore. I could hear her pacing in the kitchen, muttering to herself about how things got so bad. I knew I had to act smart, not just lash out. First, I started by watching Megan closely. I needed to know her next move. She acted all innocent around Aunt Sally, helping with dishes and smiling like nothing happened, but I saw through it. I hid behind the hallway corner one evening and caught her sneaking into my room. My heart raced as I peeked through the crack in the door. She was rummaging through my desk, probably looking for something to mess with. I held my breath, not making a sound. She grabbed a notebook, flipped through it, and then tossed it back. I guess she didn't find anything good, but I knew she was planning something. The next day, I decided to set a trap. I left a fake diary on my desk. I wrote stuff in it about how I was scared of failing a summer class I wasn't even taking. I made it sound like I was hiding a big secret. I figured she'd read it and try to use it against me. Sure enough, that night I heard her creep in again. I stayed in bed, pretending to sleep. My heart pounded as I listened to the pages turn. She whispered to herself, probably thinking she hit gold. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. This was step 1 of my plan. A few days later, Megan started spreading rumors at a neighborhood party. I wasn't there, still recovering, but my friend Jordan texted me about it. She told everyone I was failing school and crying about it. I smirked when I read the message. My trap worked. Now I had proof she was snooping. I saved Jordan's texts as evidence. I wasn't going to confront her yet, though. I wanted to build up more against her. Things got worse after that. One afternoon, I went to grab my favorite jacket from the closet. It was gone. I searched everywhere. Under my bed, in the laundry, everywhere. Then I saw Megan wearing it outside, laughing with some friends. My blood boiled. I wanted to storm out and yell, but I stopped myself. Instead, I took a picture from the window. More evidence. I was building a case to show Aunt Sally just how sneaky Megan was. The next challenge came when I started summer tutoring to catch up on missed school stuff. I had a small group at the library, and I was actually enjoying it. But one day, I opened my bag to find my notes all torn up. Pieces of paper were everywhere. My stomach dropped. I knew it was Megan. She must have gotten into my bag before I left. I had to spend hours rewriting everything. My hands shook with anger, but I kept quiet. I wasn't ready to show my cards yet. Then came a close call that almost broke me. I was in the kitchen making a sandwich one evening. Aunt Sally was out grocery shopping. I heard a noise behind me and turned just in time to see Megan holding a jar of hot sauce. She had this wicked grin on her face. I jumped back, my heart racing. I didn't know what she planned, but I wasn't waiting to find out. I grabbed my plate and bolted to my room, locking the door. I could hear her laughing outside. My hands were trembling, but I stayed put until Aunt Sally got home. I knew I had to fight back harder, so I started messing with her stuff too, but in a sneaky way. I hid her phone charger under my bed one night. She tore the house apart looking for it the next day. I acted clueless, even helping her search. Inside, I was grinning. It felt good to make her squirm for once, but I didn't stop there. I also moved her school bag to a different spot every morning. She'd panic, thinking she lost it. I'd find it for her, acting like a hero. It was my way of showing her I could play dirty too. The tension kept building. One night I woke up to a loud crash. My room was dark, and I fumbled for my phone. My heart pounded as I crept to the door. I heard footsteps in the hallway. I peeked out and saw Megan holding a hammer. My eyes widened. What was she doing? I watched her sneak into the living room. Then I heard another crash. I stayed hidden, too scared to move. The next morning, I saw the family picture frame smashed on the floor. Aunt Sally was furious, but Megan blamed it on a ghost. I knew it was her, but I had no proof this time. I decided to up my game. I borrowed a cheap camera from Jordan. I set it up in my room, hidden behind some books. I wanted to catch her in the act. For days, I checked the footage every night. Nothing at first. Then, one evening, I saw her on the screen. She was pouring something into my water bottle. My stomach churned. I zoomed in on the video. It looked like sugar, but I wasn't sure. I didn't drink from it, just poured it out. I saved the clip. Now I had solid proof. Things got even more dangerous after that. I was walking home from the library one day when I felt someone following me. I glanced back and saw Megan a few steps behind. She had this creepy smile. My heart raced. I sped up, taking a shortcut through a park. She kept pace. I ducked behind a tree, holding my breath. She passed by, looking around. I stayed still until she was gone. My legs shook as I ran the rest of the way home. I locked the door behind me, feeling like I had narrowly escaped something terrible. That was too close. I knew I couldn't keep dodging her forever. I had to end this. So I gathered all my evidence, the text from Jordan, the pictures, the video. I put it all on a USB drive. I waited for the right moment. One evening, Aunt Sally was in a bad mood after a long day at work dealing with difficult customers. I sat her down and showed her everything. My palms were sweating as I played the video. Her face went pale. She looked at the pictures and read the texts. I could see anger building in her eyes. That night, Aunt Sally called Megan into the living room. I stayed in my room listening through the wall. I heard raised voices, but I couldn't make out the words. My heart thumped. After a long time, Aunt Sally came to me. She looked tired and completely drained from the confrontation. She told me Megan admitted to some of it. Not everything, but enough. I felt a weight lift off my chest. Finally, someone believed me completely. The next day, Aunt Sally made a decision. She enrolled Megan in a strict after-school program. It was far from home, and she'd be there most evenings under proper supervision. I felt a rush of relief washing over me like a cool breeze on a hot summer day. No more sneaking around, no more traps or close calls. I could finally breathe without looking over my shoulder constantly. For the first time in months, I slept through the entire night without waking up in panic. I walked to my room, a small smile on my face. Justice was served. Megan wasn't gone for good, but I had won this round. I knew she'd be back eventually with new tricks up her sleeve, but for now, I had peace, and I was ready for whatever came next, stronger and wiser than before. With Megan at her program most evenings, the house felt quieter. I could finally relax a bit. I spent my days catching up on schoolwork and healing from the burns. My scalp still itched, but it was getting better. I even started hanging out with my friend Jordan more. We'd meet at the library to study together almost every afternoon. It felt good to have a normal life again, but deep down, I knew Megan wouldn't stay quiet forever. About a week later, I noticed little things going wrong. My homework papers kept disappearing from my desk. I'd leave them there at night, and by morning, they'd be gone. I searched everywhere. Under my bed, in my drawers, nothing. My stomach twisted with suspicion. Megan wasn't home much, but she still had time in the mornings. I started locking my door at night. It helped for a couple of days, but then I found my window slightly open one morning. My heart sank. I knew she must have climbed in somehow. I decided to test my theory. I left a fake assignment on my desk, just some scribbled notes. I locked my door and taped a tiny piece of paper in the window frame. If it moved, I'd know someone opened it. That night, I barely slept, listening for any noise. Morning came, and the tape was torn. My fake notes were gone. Anger bubbled inside me. Megan was still messing with me, even from a distance. I couldn't let her keep doing this. I hid my real schoolwork in a locked box under my bed. I also started leaving traps. I put a small bell on my window latch. If anyone touched it, I'd hear the jingle. 2 nights later, I woke up to a faint ring. My mouth went dry as I sat up in bed. I crept to the door and listened. Soft footsteps moved down the hall. I stayed still, not daring to confront her yet. I needed more proof to show Aunt Sally again. The next day, I found something worse. My lunch bag, which I'd packed for a library study session, had salt poured all over my sandwich. I only noticed when I took a bite and nearly gagged. My throat burned from the taste. I threw it out, my hands shaking with frustration and disbelief. Megan must have done it before she left for her program. I felt a mix of fear and fury. She wasn't stopping, even with the new rules. I started getting sneakier too. I hid my lunch in a different spot each day, sometimes in my backpack, sometimes in a cabinet she'd never check. It worked for a while, but then she struck in a new way. One morning, I found my backpack unzipped with mud smeared inside. My books were ruined. I had to spend hours cleaning them. My chest tightened with frustration. I took pictures of the mess, adding them to my growing collection of evidence. Things got scarier after that. One evening I was alone at home. Aunt Sally was working late. I heard a loud thump from the backyard. My heart pounded as I peeked out the window. I saw a shadow moving near the shed. I squinted, trying to see better. It looked like Megan's height and shape. Fear gripped me. What was she doing out there? I locked all the doors and hid in my room, clutching my phone. I didn't sleep until Aunt Sally got home. The next morning, I checked the shed. Tools were scattered everywhere and a shovel was missing. My mind raced with bad thoughts. Why would she take a shovel? I felt uneasy all day. I told Jordan about it at the library. She suggested I set up another camera, this time outside. I liked the idea. I borrowed her spare one and hid it near the shed, pointing at the door. I checked the footage every night after that. For a few days, nothing happened. Then, late one night, I saw something on the camera. Megan was sneaking out of the shed with the shovel. She looked around, then buried something in the garden. My stomach dropped. What was she hiding? I waited until morning to check. I dug in the spot and found a plastic bag. Inside were some of my old toys, broken into pieces. My heart ached. Those were memories from when we were close. Now she was destroying them. I saved the footage and took pictures of the broken toys. My evidence pile was growing, but I felt more trapped than ever. Megan was getting bolder. One afternoon, I came home to find my room trashed. Clothes were on the floor. My desk was tipped over. Everything was a mess. I froze in the doorway, my breath catching. I knew it was her. Aunt Sally wasn't home to see this yet. I quickly took more pictures before cleaning up. I decided to fight back in a new way. I started leaving notes for Megan, pretending to be scared. I wrote things like, "Please stop, I'm sorry for everything." I left them where she'd find them. I wanted her to think I was giving up. Meanwhile, I kept gathering proof. One night, I caught her on camera reading one of my notes. She smirked and tore it up. My plan was working. She thought she had the upper hand. But then came a really close call. I was walking to the library when I noticed someone behind me again. I glanced back. It was Megan, holding something in her hand. My pulse quickened. I couldn't tell what it was, but I didn't wait to find out. I sped up, taking a side street. She followed. I darted into a small shop, hiding behind a shelf. My heart thumped as I watched her pass by the window. She looked furious, her eyes scanning the street for me. I stayed there for 10 minutes before leaving. I felt like I barely escaped something bad. I knew I had to end this soon. My evidence was strong now, with videos, pictures, and even the broken toys. I waited for a day when Aunt Sally was home early. I sat her down in the kitchen. My hands shook as I showed her the new stuff. I played the shed video first. Her eyes widened. Then I showed the pictures of my trashed room and ruined toys. She looked angrier with each one. That evening, Aunt Sally confronted Megan again. I stayed in my room, listening through the wall. Their voices got loud, but I couldn't hear the words. My stomach churned with nerves. After a long time, Aunt Sally came to me. She said Megan finally admitted to most of it. She was in big trouble now. Aunt Sally decided to send her to a different program, even stricter, with no coming home on weekends. My chest felt lighter. Relief washed over me. The next day, Megan was gone before I woke up. Aunt Sally had driven her to the new place. The house felt safe for the first time in forever. I walked to my room, looking at the locked box with my schoolwork. I smiled a little. I had fought back and won again. Jordan came over later to celebrate with me. We laughed and studied together. I felt strong, like I could handle anything. But right before bed, I found a small note slipped under my door. My heart skipped a beat as I picked it up. It was from Megan, written in her messy handwriting. It just said, "This isn't over." A chill ran down my spine. I locked my door and checked the window. Even with her gone, I knew she'd find a way to come back. I clutched the note, feeling the fight wasn't done. But for now, I had triumphed. I had Aunt Sally on my side, proof of everything, and a quiet house. I was ready for her next move, no matter what it was. Justice was mine for today, and I'd keep fighting to protect it. The days after finding that note felt heavy with worry. I kept my guard up, checking every corner of the house. My room became my safe spot, but even there I felt uneasy. I started sleeping with a small baseball bat under my bed, just in case. Every little sound at night made me jump. I knew Megan wasn't home, but her words stuck with me. I had to stay ready for anything. One morning, I woke up to find my desk drawer slightly open. I froze. I always shut it tight before bed. My knees buckled soon as I looked inside. My favorite pen was missing, the one Aunt Sally gave me for good grades. I knew Megan must have found a way to sneak in, maybe during a short visit. I searched the house but found nothing. I felt so frustrated. I decided to hide my special things in a new spot, inside a locked box in my closet. That afternoon, I noticed something else weird. My school bag had a strange rip on the side. I hadn't carried anything sharp. My stomach twisted as I checked inside. Some of my papers were crumpled, like someone had grabbed them hard. I took a quick picture with my phone. More proof, I thought. I started keeping my bag in my room at all times, even when I was just in the kitchen. I wasn't taking any chances. A few nights later, I heard a soft thud outside my window. My chest tightened. I crept over and peeked through the curtain. It was dark, but I saw a shape moving near the bushes. I couldn't tell if it was Megan or someone else. Fear made my legs weak. I stayed still, watching until the shape disappeared. I didn't sleep much after that. The next morning, I checked the yard and found small marks in the dirt, like someone had stood there. I snapped another picture, adding it to my growing pile of clues. Things got trickier soon after. I was getting ready for a study session with Jordan when I found my water bottle lid loose. I hadn't touched it since filling it up. My throat felt dry as I sniffed the water. It smelled odd, kind of sour. I poured it out fast and rinsed the bottle. My hands trembled. I knew Megan had to be behind this somehow. I started sealing my drinks with tape before leaving my room. It felt silly, but I needed to feel safe. The next close call came on a quiet evening. Aunt Sally was out with a friend, and I was alone. I heard a faint scratch at the back door. My heart pounded. I tiptoed to the kitchen and listened. Another scratch. I grabbed my phone and hid behind the counter. I didn't dare look. After a few minutes, it stopped. I stayed there, frozen, until Aunt Sally got home. I told her about the noise and she checked outside. Nothing was there, but I felt shaken. I knew I had to keep building my evidence. I set up my camera again, this time near the back door. I hid it behind a plant pot, pointing at the entrance. I checked the footage every day. For a while, it showed nothing unusual. Then, one night, I saw her. Megan was on the screen, sneaking near the door. My stomach dropped. She looked around, then tried the handle. It was locked, so she left. I saved the clip. My proof was getting stronger, but I felt more scared than ever. The danger kept growing. One day, I came home to find my bedroom window cracked open. I knew I had shut it before leaving. My pulse raced as I looked inside. Nothing seemed missing, but my blanket was on the floor. I felt a chill. I took a picture and shut the window tight. I started piling heavy books on the sill so it couldn't open easily. I hated feeling like a prisoner in my own space, but I had no choice. Then came a big twist. I was checking my camera one morning when I saw something new on the footage. Megan wasn't alone this time. There was a girl with her, someone I recognized from school named Casey. My heart sank. Casey had never liked me much, and now she was helping Megan. They whispered near the back door, then split up. Casey went toward my window while Megan stayed by the door. I felt betrayed. I saved the clip and zoomed in. Their faces were clear. I knew this was bad news. I started being extra careful around Casey at school. I avoided her in the halls and kept my stuff close. But one day, she bumped into me on purpose. My books fell, and she smirked. I picked them up fast, my face burning with anger. I didn't say a word, just walked away. Inside, I was fuming. I knew she was testing me, probably reporting back to Megan. I felt surrounded, but I wasn't backing down. Things got scarier after that. One night, I woke up to a loud bang from the kitchen. I could barely breathe. Aunt Sally was asleep, so I grabbed my bat and crept down the hall. I saw the back door wide open. Fear gripped me. I shut it fast and locked it. Then I noticed muddy prints on the floor. Someone had been inside. I woke Aunt Sally, and she looked worried. We checked the house together. Nothing was taken, but I knew this was a warning. I decided to fight back smarter. I started leaving fake notes around, saying I was scared and wanted to make peace. I left them where Megan or Casey might find them. I wanted them to think I was weak. Meanwhile, I kept my camera rolling and saved every clip. One night, I caught Casey on video picking up a note near my window. She read it, laughed, and stuffed it in her pocket. My plan was working. They thought I was giving up, but the close calls didn't stop. One afternoon, I was walking home when I saw Casey waiting near my street. My pulse quickened. I took a different path, cutting through a neighbor's yard. She followed for a bit, then lost me. I hid behind a tree, my breath shallow. After she passed, I ran home and locked the door. My legs felt like jelly. I knew Megan had sent her. I felt trapped, but I kept gathering proof. The tension kept building. One morning, I found my school project torn into pieces on my desk. My chest tightened. I had worked hard on it. I took pictures of the mess and hid the bits in my box. I knew it was Megan or Casey. I started doing my projects at the library with Jordan, away from home. It was more work, but safer. I felt like I was always one step behind, but I wasn't giving up. Then came another shock. I was checking my camera footage when I saw Megan and Casey together again. This time, they were near the garage. My heart pounded. They had a small bag and were hiding something inside. I felt sick. What were they planning? I waited until daylight to check. I found a tiny jar tucked behind a box. It smelled sharp, like the stuff on my pillowcase. I took a picture and left it there. I didn't want them to know I found it. I knew I had to act soon. I gathered all my new clips, pictures of the torn project, and the jar's hiding spot. I put everything on a USB drive. My entire body was trembling as I waited for the right moment. One evening, Aunt Sally looked tired after work. I sat her down and showed her the evidence. I played the video of Megan and Casey first. Her eyes widened. Then I showed the pictures. She looked mad, really mad. That night, Aunt Sally called Megan's program. I stayed in my room listening. Her voice was loud and firm. She also called Casey's parents. My heart thumped. After a long talk, she came to me. She said Megan had admitted to sneaking out with Casey's help. Casey confessed too after her parents got involved. Aunt Sally made sure Megan stayed at the program with no breaks. She also warned Casey to stay away from me and our house. Relief hit me hard. I felt like a huge weight was gone. The next day, the house felt calm. Jordan came over, and we talked about everything. I smiled, feeling secure at last. Aunt Sally added extra locks to the garage and back door. She even checked in with Casey's parents again to make sure things were clear. I walked to my room, looking at my box of evidence. I had stood my ground and won. Justice felt so good. But as I turned off my light that night, I heard a faint rustle outside. I peeked out, seeing nothing. My pulse raced for a moment. Then I took a deep breath. Megan and Casey were dealt with. I had Aunt Sally and Jordan with me. No matter what small noise I heard, I knew I was safe. I had fought back, outsmarted them, and protected my home. Today, I triumphed, and I'd keep standing strong for whatever came next. The morning after finding that note, I felt a knot in my stomach. I stuffed the paper into my locked box with my other proof. I checked my room for anything out of place. My desk looked fine, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I decided to keep my guard up. Every sound in the house made me flinch. I knew Megan wasn't around, but her threat lingered in my mind. That day, I went to the library with Jordan to study. I kept my backpack close, not letting it out of sight. When I got home, I noticed my bedroom door was ajar. I froze. I had closed it before leaving. I could feel my heartbeat in my temples as I peeked inside. Nothing seemed missing, but my pillow was turned sideways. I took a quick picture for evidence. I felt uneasy, like someone had been there. I started locking my door even when I was just downstairs. A couple of days later, I found something worse. My favorite notebook, where I wrote personal stuff, had pages torn out. My chest tightened. I looked everywhere for the missing pieces, but they were gone. I knew it had to be Megan, somehow sneaking in during a quick visit. I snapped a photo of the damaged book. Anger bubbled inside me, but I stayed calm. I hid the notebook in a new spot, under my mattress. That night, I heard a faint noise outside. My heart pounded as I crept to the window. I peeked through the curtain and saw a shadow near the backyard tree. I couldn't tell who it was. I tried my best to stay still, watching until the shape moved away. I didn't sleep well after that. The next morning, I checked outside and found small scuff marks in the dirt. I took another picture, adding it to my collection. Things got trickier soon after. I was packing my lunch for a study day when I noticed my sandwich looked odd. The bread was soggy, like it had been messed with. My stomach churned. I sniffed it and smelled something sour. I threw it out fast and made a new one. I felt nauseous. I started hiding my food in a different spot every day. I felt like I couldn't trust anything in the kitchen anymore. The next close call came on a quiet afternoon. Aunt Sally was at work, and I was alone. I heard a soft tap at the front door. My heart jumped. I tiptoed to the hallway and listened. Another tap. I didn't dare open it. I hid behind the couch, clutching my phone. After a few minutes, the sound stopped. I stayed there until Aunt Sally got home. I told her about it, and she checked outside. Nothing was there, but I felt rattled. I knew I needed more proof. I set up my small camera again, this time near the front door. I hid it behind a potted plant, pointing at the porch. I checked the footage every day. For a while, it showed nothing strange. Then, one evening, I saw her. Megan was on the screen, standing near the door. My breath caught. She looked around, then left something small on the step. I waited until morning to check. It was a folded paper with a mean drawing of me. I saved the clip and kept the paper as evidence. The danger didn't stop there. One day, I came home to find my room smelling funny. It was a sharp chemical scent. My eyes stung as I opened the window. I looked around and saw my blanket had a damp spot. My blood went cold. I sniffed it from a distance and it reminded me of cleaner. I threw it in the wash and used a spare. I took a picture of the spot. I felt scared, knowing Megan must have done this somehow. I started being extra careful. I hid my important stuff in new places daily. My school papers went into a locked box in my closet. My blanket stayed in a different spot each night. It was tiring, but I felt a bit safer. Still, every creak in the house made me nervous. I needed to catch her doing something big. I kept my camera rolling and saved every little thing I found. Then came a twist I didn't expect. I was checking my camera footage one night when I saw Megan with someone else. It was a girl from her program named Lila. My stomach dropped. Lila had a sneaky grin as they whispered near the porch. They left another note under the mat. I felt betrayed, knowing Megan had help now. I saved the clip and got the note in the morning. It said, "Watch your back." My hands shook as I added it to my box. I started watching out for Lila too. I avoided places where Megan's friends might hang out. But one afternoon, I saw Lila near the library. My pulse quickened. She stared at me with a smirk, then walked away. I felt uneasy, like she was spying for Megan. I kept my head down and stayed close to Jordan. Inside, I was boiling with frustration. I knew I had to outsmart them both. Things got scarier after that. One night, I woke up to a loud thud from the kitchen. My heart pounded. Aunt Sally was asleep, so I grabbed a flashlight and crept down the hall. I saw the back door slightly open. Fear hit me hard. I shut it fast and locked it. Then I noticed muddy marks on the floor. I did breathing exercises to stop myself having a full-on anxiety attack. Someone had been inside. I woke Aunt Sally and we checked the house. Nothing was gone, but I knew this was a message. I decided to fight back in a sneaky way. I started leaving fake notes around, saying I was tired of fighting. I left them where Megan or Lila might see them. I wanted them to think I was done. Meanwhile, I kept my camera on and saved every clip. One night, I caught Lila on video picking up a note near the back door. She read it, smiled, and tucked it away. My plan was working. They thought they had me beat, but the close calls kept coming. One day, I was walking home when I saw Lila a block behind me. My chest tightened. I took a side street to lose her. She kept following. I ducked behind a big trash bin, holding my breath. She walked past, looking around. I waited until she was gone, then ran home. My legs felt weak as I locked the door. I knew Megan had sent her. I felt cornered, but I wasn't giving up. The tension grew even more. One morning, I found my school project crumpled on my desk. My heart sank. I had spent hours on it. I took pictures of the mess and hid the pieces. I knew it was Megan or Lila. I started working on projects only at the library with Jordan. It was harder, but safer. I felt like I was always playing catch-up, but I kept pushing forward. Then came another shock. I checked my camera one night and saw Megan and Lila near the garage. My heart raced. They were hiding something small behind a box. I felt nervous. What were they up to? I waited until morning to look. I found a tiny container with a weird smell. I didn't touch it, just took a picture. I left it there so they wouldn't know I saw it. My mind spun with worry. I knew I had to act soon. I gathered all my new clips, pictures of the crumpled project, and the strange container spot. I saved everything on a USB drive. My hands shook as I waited for the right time. One evening, Aunt Sally seemed worn out from work. I sat her down and showed her the proof. I played the video of Megan and Lila first. Her face went stiff. Then I showed the pictures. She looked upset, really upset. That night, Aunt Sally called the program where Megan stayed. I stayed in my room, listening. Her voice was sharp and loud. She also reached out to Lila's family. My heart thumped hard. After a long talk, she came to me. She said Megan and Lila admitted to sneaking around. They had planned to scare me more. Aunt Sally made sure Megan stayed at the program with no visits. She also told Lila's family to keep her away from me. Relief washed over me. I felt like I could finally relax. The next morning, the house felt peaceful. Jordan came over and we talked about it all. I smiled, feeling secure. Aunt Sally added stronger locks to every door. She even checked in with Lila's family again to make sure things were settled. I walked to my room, looking at my box of evidence. I had stood strong and won. Justice felt amazing. But as I turned off my light that night, I heard a small rustle outside. I peeked out, seeing nothing. My heart jumped for a second. Then I took a deep breath. Megan and Lila were handled. I had Aunt Sally and Jordan by my side. No matter the tiny sound, I knew I was safe. I had outsmarted them and protected my space. Today, I came out on top, and I'd keep standing tall for whatever came next.